All right. So our next speaker, Andrew Stenehjem, is the manager of user services for the Beaverton School District. He previously worked for the school district in technical support at both the school and district level, including managing the district's 16,000 Apple computers and devices, which has since grown to 25,000. So he used to actually have to take care of all of the Apples in all the schools in the whole district here. Since beginning as the manager of user services in December 2014, Andrew has helped the district to reshape its technology support model. He has presented to various regional and national groups on the district's management and support philosophies, support initiatives, and the logistics of managing Apple products. He served as a member of JAMF's Customer Advisory Board. Thank you, Andrew.
Sure. You were supposed to give a rousing round of applause after he said that, right? Thank you. Thanks for thinking of that yourselves, too. Can you all do me a favor really quick and just, if you're able to stand, can you stand up for just a second where you're at? Just go ahead and stand up. I'm hearing a lot of groaning. Okay. Now, if you're able to, could you lift up your right leg so you're balancing on your left leg? Don't worry if you're not able to do it. Okay, you can go ahead and sit down. There was no point to that other than just to see if you would listen to what I asked you to do since I have a microphone, so thank you for doing that. So like Mr. Galbraith said, my name is Andrew Stenehjem, and I am the manager of user services for the school district. Show of hands, how many of you know what a manager of user services is? 0. Okay, good. I didn't know either before I started the job, so don't worry about it. Partially that's due to the fact that it didn't even exist as a job before 2 years ago. So a question I find myself often asking is, how did I get here? 18 years ago, I was sitting in your spot in high school, and I did not think, under any circumstance, that I would end up working in technology or in IT. So when I was your age, I was more preoccupied with things like playing sports and playing music. So this is a picture of me in high school playing football about a split second after I had just sustained a pretty significant head blow. Somebody tackled me helmet to helmet. Pretty significant blow, caused a lot of pain, blacked out for a little bit. Didn't realize the impact that that moment would have on my life moving forward until later, so we'll come back to that. So when I was your age, I thought that this is what everybody's career path would look like. So you start at point A, maybe you are your age and you think, okay, I know what I want to do for a job when I grow up. I identify that career. And then you get trained in all of the skills and expertise and tools that you will need to be successful to do that job. And so when you show up on your first day at that job, you know exactly what you need to do for that job. As a person who likes to be prepared for things, I sort of have a fear of not being prepared for things. So I expected that, and I hoped that when I got to doing my career job, I would have all the skills I needed to do that job well. So I'm interested to know from you, how many of you, by a show of hands, know what job you'll be doing 18 years from now? So raise your hand if you feel confident that you know exactly what you'll be doing for your career. Only a few, okay. Interesting. So I would challenge you to say, even if you do think you know what you're going to be doing 18 years from now, I would guess that what you'll be doing will be probably a little bit different than it exists today. So the question is, what is in your future? Well, one thing we know is that the world is changing, and it sounds like cliche, but you've heard people talking about it this morning. You can see signs of this everywhere. There's rapid change happening. It's impacting education, it's impacting our political world, it's impacting every industry. A big part of that is due to the changes in technology. Technology is changing so rapidly that the rest of the world is just kind of running to try to keep up. So that has a big impact because change means that things are unknown. So things in your future, it's hard to know what they're going to look like because of this change. So this is a video created by the World Economic Forum talking about this period in time in which we're living. So essentially what they're talking about is the period in time in which we live now being the fourth industrial revolution. So you heard Craig talking about autonomous vehicles. So here's an example of one of the autonomous cars we're talking about. But think about the impact that that will have on jobs. So you have people who have worked in the industry, have relied on working in an industry that required humans to drive vehicles. People who drove vehicles of different kinds, people who work for insurance companies who are based on insurance being based on people driving their own cars. Think about the change that's happening to industries as a result of that technology. So here's another example of an industry that's been changed dramatically with technology. Think about journalism. Think about media. So a few years ago, print media was a big thing, and that's changed dramatically. It's changed radio, it's changed TV. All of those things are still in a state of constant change. One of the things this article is talking about is that you can create programs that will write news articles for you. This is already happening, it's already being used. So you can create a program that has an algorithm built in that just grabs the data that's needed to be grabbed and can spit out a human readable article. And if you look at the fine print here, they're saying that in 2030, 90% of journalism will be done by computers. So think about the impact that has on journalism and people in that field. You see signs of technology impacting jobs all the time. This is from last fall. This is Walmart laying off 7,000 people, mainly because they could automate most of that work. And you, again, see articles all the time talking about the future. What is this going to mean as technology replaces jobs that technology can replace? So what does this mean for you? The U.S. Department of Labor a couple years ago said that 65% of you will end up working in jobs that don't exist today. So these are some careers, these are some good fields that you could go into now as viable career options that didn't even exist just a few years ago. So within our department, within our IT department for the school district, these are a list of positions that didn't exist a short time ago either. And for me, if I look at my personal path, my previous job has only existed for about 10 years. My current job's only existed for about 2 years, and the jobs that we're hiring all the time are basically brand new. And the jobs that have existed for a while, almost all of them have changed because the technology has changed the tools needed to do the job or the skills needed to do them. So we have many people in our department who are hired for one set of skills, technical skills, who may now be asked to communicate or to use a completely different set of skills based on the changing needs of the organization. So again, how did I get to this place? Well, I thought when I was your age that the career path was going to look like this, straight line. Here's what my career's looked like since I was your age. Here's some of the jobs that I've worked. So you can see as you start working your way from the top to the bottom, there's not really a common thread at the top, and you start to find one towards the bottom of working in technology. Of those jobs that I've worked at, 5 of those didn't exist when I was your age. So while I thought it was going to look like that, it ended up looking a little bit more like that. So going back to that football moment, what happened after that was I started getting regular migraine headaches. I had a concussion. At that time, we didn't know better, so I went back and played the rest of the game. Scored 2 touchdowns, by the way. Applause. Applause. No. That was the most self-indulgent thing I've ever done. Started getting regular headaches after that, right? And started going to medical experts to look at why I was getting these headaches. Started taking daily medication to try to prevent those headaches. Started taking medication when I would get the headaches to try to get rid of the headaches. Spent the next decade plus trying to find a solution for these regular headaches that were fairly debilitating. I thought at that time that you needed to have expertise in something in order to be great at it. So you needed to enter a field with expertise if you hope to be great. So for me personally, again, wanting to be prepared for things, if I didn't have expertise in it when I started something, that caused a lot of fear. So I was forced to face that fear when I made a jump in my career, when I made a position change from being a field tech that supported 12 schools, technology at 12 schools here in the district, to being the Apple client architect. And like Mr. Galbraith mentioned, we have 15,000, now 25,000 Apple devices. That's one of the biggest deployments actually in the country. So this was a big step for me. And this was not a position that, for which I could, I knew that I wasn't coming in with the expertise that I needed to do, and that I needed to do the job successfully. So this was definitely my sort of jumping off the cliff or climbing a mountain type of a moment, where I was gonna have to enter this door and not be fully prepared with the expertise needed to do the job. And there was nobody that could help me to develop that expertise. I couldn't go to somebody who could say, okay, here's what you need to do this job well. So for me, that caused a lot of fear. It was kind of my Luke Skywalker going into the cave moment to face my fears. So I approached it the only way that I knew how, which was just to say, I am gonna work as hard as I can to try to figure this out so that I don't fall on my face and completely embarrass myself in front of people. So I started doing as much research as possible, started learning as much as I could learn, started trying things, failing sometimes, learning from those failures, trying again, and kept persevering, and kind of had an epiphany of realizing, hey, even though I didn't start by knowing all of this stuff, I can learn this stuff. I can learn and adapt to this. So I thought, well, I need to apply this sense to my personal life as well. So I've been going to these medical experts, trying to figure out a solution for these headaches, and always asking other people to be that expert. And I started saying, well, maybe I can learn something about this, and I can make my own hypotheses. I can come up with my own possible solutions and test those out. So I did that, and was very happy to find that I was able to find a solution for my headaches that allowed me to get off of all my medications and to stop getting headaches. So what did I learn from that? And more importantly, what will make you successful? What I've learned is that there are some core skills. When things are changing so constantly and so rapidly, there's some core skills that will help make you successful no matter what you end up doing. So those core skills to me are the ability to learn and adapt, the ability to creatively solve problems, and the ability to communicate effectively. So the ability to learn and adapt, like I've talked about, technology is going to change. So you may start a job and they may ask you to have a certain set of expertise and a certain skill set for a certain tool that you're using. And then 2 years later, they may say, okay, we're gonna completely shift what you're doing, and now you need to use a new tool set, develop a new skill set because you're needed to do something else because we changed technology based on that. So you need the ability to learn that new skill, that new tool set, and adapt to that. So an example that I can give you is when I was in college, I was a music recording major, and I had wanted to have nothing to do with computer programming, but I had to take a computer programming class. At that time, no interest in it. So what we would do is we would get our assignment, which was create a program that does whatever, and we would go to the lab. All the kids from the class would go to the lab, and there was always a couple kids who were like the computer science majors, right? And they knew this stuff, very easy for them. So the rest of us would sit and kind of flounder. Those other kids would finish theirs, and then they would share their answers with us. And so we would borrow their answers, right? So that worked for a little while. And then one night, none of the computer science kids showed up. I don't know if they were sitting by themselves laughing in their dorm room or what, but it was just the rest of us there. And so we all kind of looked at each other like, wait, we don't we don't know how to do this. Where's the kids that know how to do this? So we all sat and kind of tried to figure it out ourselves. I didn't think that I was going to be able to come anywhere close to getting it, and somehow I figured it out. And all of a sudden the other kids came over and they were borrowing my answer. And it was this crazy moment of, wait a second, this has got to be wrong. Wow, I can't do this. Little did I know that 15 years from that point, I would be doing the computer programming as a large part of my job, and actually thoroughly enjoying it. So the ability to creatively solve problems. So if a problem is just 2 plus 2, that's something that a computer can do. So you can automate that. So we need humans who have the ability to take in different nuance and plug that in and solve problems, because most jobs are just a series of problems that you have to solve. And the ability to communicate effectively. So that doesn't just mean to come up and speak or to speak to people. That means the ability to listen, to empathize, and to build trusting relationships with people. So when I'm hiring now, which we're doing often, I can tell you that I'm not looking for somebody who comes in that has all the answers. But instead, I'm looking for who's going to have the best approach when they don't know the answers, because that's going to be the situations in which they're in most of the time. And we're looking for who has the ability to learn and adapt, creatively solve problems, and to communicate effectively. So what do I wish that I knew when I was your age? I wish I knew that I didn't need to start with expertise in something in order to become great at it. I wish I knew that even though some of you may end up having career paths that look like this straight line, it's okay if your career path looks like that. And for me, it was actually a blessing, because those squiggly lines is where I really learned a lot about myself and about the world. And that change is inevitable, but that it's an opportunity. And as long as you have the ability to learn and adapt, to creatively solve problems and to communicate, you will probably be able to navigate that world successfully. So what can you do? Step out of your comfort zone, learn about yourself, learn about the world, learn about your strengths and your weaknesses, develop your awareness, and don't become so locked into one specific thing that you're not going to be able to learn and adapt when that specific thing changes. And then one day you may be able to come here and speak to the students at Sunset High School who will be taught by the robots that are being developed by Mrs. Gear and Mr. Galbraith. Thank you.